Okay, so I've got like several thumbs up. There's a lot of cameras in here recording this. For starters, thank you everybody for joining us today on the first day of Black History Month. Thank you for being part of history, Wilmington history, national history, your life history, your children's history. This is going to be a really awesome meeting. Above all, you're going to have the opportunity to ask questions and find out more in-depth information about Cape Fear's comprehensive community violence prevention strategy that we have been working on drafting here since October. So again, first day of February, appreciate you spending your night here. And all the people in-house, thank you for all you do, because you guys make our job so much easier. Also, shout out to coffee. Sokoto House topic.
That's right. Get you some. Get you some. And again, I want to extend a thank you to the people that invited other people out. That's the big thing too, is that you shared it with your friends, you shared it with other professionals. We really appreciate that. So we just want to thank you for coming on to the Zoom call. We appreciate it. Thank you.
So just a kind of quick sense of how this is going to go. We're going to go through a quick overview in the first part, and then we're going to go through the 5 different programs that we're actually trying to implement here in the city. And we're going to delve a little deep into them, more deeper than we have in the past, and we're going to pause. And that's going to be an opportunity for you guys to ask any questions you have. Again, I want to be very clear. Those questions are questions designed to challenge, designed to question. You can question our credentials, you can question the actual practicality of the actual program here locally. How do we know it's going to work? Why do we feel so confident that's going to work? Any of those things is what this space is for. Because again, our goal is to address bringing more visibility and elevating community-based prevention strategies and demonstrating that community members, community-based organizations, ones that's historically not funded, right, have the capacity to execute very healthy and effective programs to address the issues that we deal with every day, right? And that's the goal of this. So, and one of the biggest pieces is we can typically talk it, and we can typically go into the communities and make connections, but usually people question whether or not we have that capacity to actually execute evidence-based curriculums, right? And this is what we're attempting to demonstrate, that not only can we do it, but the reality is that there's a lot of community-based organizations, there's a lot of community professionals that can, and we want to elevate that. So this is your opportunity for the ones that's present to challenge us or just inquire, whatever you need. And this will be recorded so that we'll be able to disseminate later. So please, all love, you know what I'm saying? Let's get in and get at it. All right?
Sweet. So we'll begin with identifying who we are. My name is Lily Nicole. I am a graduate of UNCW. I majored in theater and English. I had the pleasure of, upon graduation, to work in the theater community for about 5 or 6 years here. I worked in several community organizations. I worked at Thalian Hall. In my time, I've also assisted with several community outreach programs, cleanups. I was part of DC Burger's inaugural reopening when UNCW bought/partnered with them. I was downtown during Florence cleanup right after the hurricane hit, when everything in town was shut down and there was no access to the north side. Myself and several community members, Foxes, Shred, Shorters, actually I first met her out there, Kristen McKiff from, was it Good Works, is what the organization? Yeah, they ended up creating Good Works as a nonprofit organization, and then from there other things popped up, but I was down part of the neighborhood cleanup then. Fast forward to this past summer, I was part of the George Floyd peaceful protest downtown, where LCL was formed, a nonprofit, and from there and the organizations that we fell into, I met Advanced Youth Outreach, called it like Blueprint, and I was welcomed into Sokoto House. That's become not only a second home to me, but a literal collective consciousness community outreach. It's everything that I needed at this point in time in my life, and I'm here now to present something that I feel like is key, and it's absolutely necessary for Wilmington and for the communities beyond.
My name is Vance Williams. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I have worked for many numerous mental health companies. I specialize in behavior modification for young adults. I started a nonprofit called Advanced Youth Outreach in 2015. We're working with marginalized communities, also working with young adults who have gotten out of as far as the penal system or being incarcerated and try to get back into the community. I did wraparound services and case management for those clients. I'm currently the operation director of Sokoto House. Thank you.
Good. So my name is Abdullah. I'm originally from Southern California, and a key point of my narrative is to always identify where I first encountered kind of a path dealing with addressing violence in the community. And where that actually started is where I began to participate actively into violence. I grew up maybe age 11, first time inside the criminal justice system. By age 17, I was incarcerated for 8 years inside California Department of Corrections. Was able to make a significant transition while I was incarcerated. I came home, immediately delved in to try to kind of repair, restore some of the things that was going on in my community. So hostile where I come from in San Diego, California, I migrated to Oregon. While in Oregon, trying to do the work, I encountered some challenges and realized that public safety and other type of models wasn't necessarily the best model for addressing violence in the community, because it was a major occurrence of trust being violated. And in order to deal with violence in the community, you have to have trust as a fundamental mechanism. You have to be able to connect with people in order to actually address the trauma that's typically the reason why violence happens. So I kind of like pulled back from the whole professional scene, was doing my actual bachelor's degree at Portland State University, and then I stumbled into an actual initiative called Stride that was being launched as a demonstration site inside Portland, Oregon. While there, I was introduced to the community health worker model. I became a community health worker, and for the next 4 years to 5 years, I delved and put all my energy into understanding how public health can become an actual mechanism that can be used to actually mobilize and organize in communities. At the end of that 5 years, 2016, I moved with Wilmington, North Carolina, and since I've been here, I've been beating that drum. And the actual product of that is what you see from us coming together. It's not my thing, it's our thing. I just kind of was lucky enough to be in a certain location at a certain time, just to be clear, right? So that's who we are. Let's get into it.
As we begin our slide, he mentioned that we are community health workers. So outside of just the three of us here on the stage, we have two other individuals that we've been working with that have also been very, very key into where we are. They are also community health workers in their own right, in their own genre. That's Ms. Brenda Galloway, and that is Kevin Roberts. You'll see them and talk to them a little bit later at different points of the scenario, but please know they are here, they're in our corner, and they've helped us get here. So we're going to share our screen, we're going to go through the slideshow, and again, at the end of every section, we're going to go back to you guys, ask questions, take notes, comment, critique, whatever. This is your chance. It's recorded. The world will see it. Let's go.
So, in order to say, so y'all see the PowerPoint, the first thing we're going to talk about is violence. There's multiple different types of violence that's described across the country. What we've done is used kind of like a format that was established inside of Portland, Oregon, where we identify 7 different types of violence. Now, just to be clear, here in our city, we're saying that the priority for us in violence is dealing with interpersonal violence, people hurting people, and structural violence. Systems either inadvertently or unconsciously neglecting responsibilities, or consciously neglecting responsibilities, which translates into some form of abuse. Within those 7 forms, you have the interpersonal, you have the actual structural. We're focusing on structural violence and the motivation of ideology-based violence, meaning where someone has actually developed some form of justification in their mind that it's okay for them to hurt a person, and how that then navigates itself within a structure and is placed in the hands of people who have power, and because of that bias, right, they now giving themselves permission to either neglect or to deliberately deny certain people access to the resources that they need in order to develop as a healthy community. Within structural violence, understand there's multiple different types of structural violence. You have class-based structural violence, you have gender-based structural violence, you have sexuality-based structural violence, you have religiously motivated structural violence, right? We're saying that racially motivated structural violence is a top priority. The city has said it, the county has said it, the country has said it, and we're saying it, right? So what that looks like for us, when you talk about the CCCPVS Comprehensive Community Violence Prevention Strategy, we're focusing on racially motivated structural violence, right? Racially motivated structural violence and community violence. What does community violence look like? It looks like gang violence. It looks like domestic violence. It looks like robberies. It looks like anything that happens outside of the system per se, where people are hurting each other for whatever reason.
Where it's normal people hurting normal people. It's not the system, it's not a law, it's not a rule in place. It's literally your community members out there hurting community members.
And while we're addressing that, and we're also dealing with the actual system.
We have to clarify that because there are people in powers and positions that say, what about black on black crime? Or what about the neighborhood? We're going to take care of them too, but trust and believe we're going to take care of the elected officials and their negligence.
So that's why it's comprehensive, because it's dealing with the actual communities that's hurting themselves, and it's also dealing with the systems that may be contributing to why the community are hurting themselves in more cases and in certain geographical locations than it may be happening in other geographical locations.
The one beautiful thing about public health and using public health as our tool is it asks the question why. It digs deeper. So again, we don't have surface level conversations like what about that neighborhood is hurting themselves? Why would they do that? What is black on black crime? A, non-existent. But we are digging deeper to figure out what is really happening. So that is part of our strategy. That is our driving focus. Public health allows us that ability.
One last thing, we'll open up real quick for questions just in case before we move into the strategies. We want to make sure it's interactive. Public health also does not have access within its toolbox to use guns.
Nope.
It does not have access within its toolbox to use gavels,
No.
meaning judges and courts. It does not have access within its toolbox to use handcuffs,
No.
right? And the reason why that's important is typically when you're dealing with violence, the overwhelming and monolithic narrative is enforcement,
Yes.
public safety.
Not intervention, not healing. They just want to enforce some type of other form of violence.
And we want to be clear. They play a significant role in addressing violence. You need law enforcement to address violence. But law enforcement epistemology is not to prevent. They don't learn that in school. They don't learn that in their professional backgrounds. So when you have someone who hasn't been properly trained prioritize to do the prevention or prioritize to do the reentry, right? Then you have someone that's not qualified and in many cases overworked. So you're going to have an enhanced level of mistakes being made, and many cases a disregard for what is quality performance when it comes to their work. So what we're saying is we need to bring more of a visibility to a prevention-based models, community-based prevention-based models as it relates to addressing violence in our community. That's the point. So real quick, we're going to, because that's a lot that we said. We want to open up and see if there's any questions before we move into the actual 5 strategies that we believe is possible to address these issues. You guys can mute yourself. If there's none, we'll keep moving forward.
Everyone okay?
Cool.
All right,
Love
strategies.
it. All right. Next slide.
All right, these are our 5 strategies. We are going to be discussing placemaking, which is based on a similar concept, SEPTED, in the STRIVE program. Again, the one that we're focusing specifically on is from 2011 to 2016 that took place in Multnomah County Health Department. That, you can find the information on our website, sokotohouse.org. When you go to the original document of the comprehensive guidelines, we have all of it listed, the appendix, link back to it. It is a beautiful read, super informative. But we're calling it placemaking. You're going to love it. Youth leadership development, exactly what it sounds like. We are developing youth leaders.
Next generation, baby.
Exactly. Kids are the future. Community professional development, community healing initiative, and community-based participatory research. Outside of everything, we're reminding you, healing and any change takes place in the community. Public health allows us to do that. We're putting a focus on the people who are not only hurting, but the people who are living the hurt and the people who are watching the hurt.
Absolutely.
So
let's go. The first program is placemaking. Let's look into it.
SEPTED/placemaking. The effective design and use of the built environment to encourage the reduction in the fear of crime, a reduction in the actual number of crimes committed, improvement in community safety, an improvement in the perception of safety, and an improvement in the overall quality of life in the community. That is the purpose, the definition, the overall encompassing concept behind placemaking. That's layman terms.
So just to be clear, the goal of placemaking from the way that we're looking at it as a community is how do you use your architectural design, how do you use the physical built environment to encourage human beings to come together and strengthen the cohesion in the community. Have spaces where people are comfortable to gather and gather safely. Have spaces where people are comfortable to come and be physically active, to come and actually exercise, right? Places where there's landmarks that educate them on certain significant historical backgrounds. Places where there's an art installation, whether on the wall or on the street, where people come in that community can say, man, 3-4 years ago, I remember connecting up with Sister Brenda Galloway and some other individuals, man, and we ran around the community and we actually designed this particular art thing, and we came out there and on a Saturday, man, for 2 days, man, we barbecued, we kicked it, and we actually painted this. This is ours, where the community take ownership in it, right?
In their neighborhood.
In their neighborhood.
In their neighborhood.
Right? Placemaking is about creating spaces where community feel connected, and because of the connectedness, they feel like they're willing to sacrifice to make it better. The opposite of that is people not giving a damn about their environment because they don't feel like the environment is made for them.
Yeah.
Right? Sokoto House, let's talk about it.
And also, to go back to placemaking, it's a maximize community investing, having a vested interest
People buying
in your community. But Sokoto House in itself, if you were to go maybe last year, that whole field that you see on your screen was trees, trash. It was an undesirable landscape. Well, community members, Abdullah and myself, looked at this dormant asset, invested in this dormant asset, had a vision for this dormant asset, but it was, the idea was birthed out of a community need. The community needed a place. The community needed a beachhead, but it's also a hub for other nonprofit organizations that has the same mission, the same vigor, the same enthusiasm to make their community better. So this is a free space for them to come, organize, educate their community members, even educate the population that they serve. So Sokoto House is almost like an open door.
I call it a cultural consciousness collective hub.
Yes.
A bunch of seeds.
So just real quick, so this Sokoto House concept, again, I want you to think about two things. Human development and structural development, right? So this idea of a dormant asset, there's a lot of dormant assets sitting inside of our community. Buildings that are not being used,
Buildings that are abandoned.
people that are absentee owners who don't have the money immediately to be able to invest in the growing opportunities for investment and the capital return that comes off of that. Those properties are sitting there and they become hubs for criminal activity or other type of unsafe type of realities, right? These community members may not even have the financial means to invest in it. Well, what happened here was you took that dormant asset. Again, the reason why I'm explaining this to people that's present, because this is not just to big up Sokoto House, right? And Sokoto House not just designed to become the hub of the city. We're looking to motivate a duplication and multiplication of this concept, right? We need help bringing visibility to it so that we can show that if you take a building or you take a location and you allow community members who's doing work voluntarily, none of us are being paid, right? We get help from some of you guys that help us with financial support because we have non-for-profits, but we have no grants right now. We have no other type of financial funding in terms of like banks giving us loans. These are community members with their heart, engaging in the community, trying to make a change. You put that spirit into a dormant asset and something comes to life. We're trying to bring that type of actual understanding to Wilmington, right? Via evidence-based curriculum. CCCPVS, placemaking is evidence-based, nationally recognized, right? So it has the capacity to secure the credentials to get funded. If we can show here that by supporting community members who are doing the work and community-based organizations who are doing the work and allow them to bring something to life, then that makes a good argument for it to happen on the east side, to happen on the south side, to happen out there inside of Castle Haynes where they're getting ready to push all the people in the hood over to here soon as gentrification continues to happen. So that's kind of the concept that we want to actually, bring to fruition. Now let's look at some of the activities real quickly that's happening in Sokoto House and we'll move forward.
So, yeah, I was going to say, so moving on, one of the things that we've done, again, like I said, a lot of nonprofit organizations, a lot of community members have come together. So they're literally putting their energies and their strengths together. We have the garden program that's outside. It was the HEAL program, actually. It's a whole acronym breaking down.
H2O,
it's an educational program.
H2O, earth, air, and land.
Yes, it's an educational program. So not only are we teaching people the agricultural basis, good food, good eating, we're also teaching them how to garden in their own space, teaching them how to make planter boxes, urban garden styles, and it is an open garden concept right here on the south side that's open to the whole community. If you're hungry and you drive by, you see it, please stop and get yourself something to eat. If you're free on a Monday through Sunday, you got 5 hours, 2 minutes, 3 times to spend, swing by, say hey, and also put yourself in the garden. I point this out because this is one concept of a large-scale community garden, but we're teaching people how to scale this and do this elsewhere. We're working with the Arboretum, and we're working with Evan Fold, shout out to him. So we can teach and do classes that people can do this in their yards. We're trying to take this idea, this concept of fresh food and fresh air, and take it literally all over town. Not just on the south side, and not just this size. We are blessed and fortunate that we do have a lot big enough to have a full garden. But we can teach you to do this in your backyard.
But we're also
Trying on the next slide. Too.
Yep.
Yeah, we're also trying to make it field trip ready
Heyo.
for our school system.
Yes.
So they can go home and teach their parents. Like, this is what I learned at Sokoto House. I learned about urban farming. I learned about how to start a
So all the
small
schools out there,
garden.
shout out.
Yeah.
We're ready for you.
And then again, and this is kind of a baseline, which is going to lead us. Well, I guess before we go there, go back again a little bit. So this ecology piece, I want to say, this is about ecology as well too, and the science of ecology, right? At a real baseline level, understanding how to interact with the earth, understanding how, food connects up with the sun and water and different things of that nature. Which then, I want to mention this before we go into the other slide that's going to come in later. When we talk about our partnership with Mac Oil and our partnership with Rick Groves relating to actual energy and related to solar power, right? This here is connected, it's interdependent. It's all around bringing the knowledge of the ecology, right, our environment, and the technology that's in it, or the technology that's being used to enhance our access to it, and making sure we bring it to the hood, to the urban community.
And this
right?
is literally another way to educate people. Hands-on, get yourself out there into the field, into the acting of it. You are learning as you're going, and this starts healing. Put your feet in the dirt. This is the best way to ground yourself.
Absolutely. Okay.
This is one of my favorite events we did. Shout out Chris Everett. We did Wilmington on Fire screening right here on the side of the wall. It was not only beautiful, it was amazing. We cleaned up the area outside. Then we set up chairs and tents and invited people to come. And we had fish fry out there. We had food being served. And it honestly was a tear-moving experience.
So you're talking about an opportunity to use a space that is designed to elevate people's awareness about their community. The majority of the people that's out there are white community members, people from European backgrounds living inside of America, and Sokoto House is in the hood.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an
Yeah,
opportunity
at
to
night.
make a connectivity,
Summer.
to make something, that the community around wouldn't normally see, and they came over and checked it out. They came over and seen what was going on.
They walked around, they looked at the garden, they
Yeah.
sat and they chatted with everyone, like they scaled it up, they came inside, and of course, we were safety protocols, like we were doing all of that, but they came and they invested, it was about 2.5 hours, we hung out here, had a Q&A, and off gate, they came to see a film that was relevant in the time, the history, and the physical location they were in, and had the opportunity to talk to the director. So we
Yes.
were able to offer that for the community, but also just for the general awareness of Wilmington, and that's a blessing that we had the space.
So there will be more of that, is
Oh,
that
it's
point.
coming.
That space, but we're also encouraging other spaces to think about doing it as well.
Mhm.
Next slide.
Completely free community market. This is exactly what it sounds like. It is a completely free community market. All of the items get donated from the community and they get purchased for free by the community. We set it up, we take donations on a Friday, we set up all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and this is in partnership with LCL. I mean, huge
Lowercase
shout out to
leaders.
Lowercase Leaders. We actually have our next market coming up for those watching next weekend. So, more about that, but so this is an opportunity for, again, other organizations to come and partner. This isn't our building, this isn't our individual space. We want the community to come in, we want programming to come in, we want opportunities such as this to host, and this is probably by far one of my favorite events. This will be our fourth.
And I'm gonna keep it real, man. Like the people that Lowercase Leaders and then Sokoto House, primarily Vance and Lily's kind of like, and Sister Brenda Galloway is kind of like the community people out in the community connecting into certain little circles or whatnot. I'm kind of like a hermit type individual, but you come outside the space, y'all can vibe with me, right? But they've been able to reach out, man, to some very giving individuals, man, that they don't give junk, man. They're giving quality stuff to the community, man. They know it's going to community members that can benefit. Talking about backpacks and shirts and folders and even like audio, video, technological stuff, right? So
Nice furniture.
that is something that, again, so here you see somebody giving something free. You hear an organization coming in and using the space. But what I'm gonna tell you is also happening is people ask, where do you guys get this from? You have to understand, and when we begin to tell them who are the people that's donating this, you're talking about like a restoration and a repairing, and maybe on a small scale, but a significant scale when it comes to the community that they don't have regular access to.
Yes.
Right? Community members that they may think may not have their best interests at heart. We can say like, nah, man, people are giving these things. Because typically when you give things like that, it's a yard sale. Ain't nobody giving it away. They selling it.
Yeah.
Right? And if they is giving it away, it's not quality. So just, we're going to keep moving forward, but just to understand again, placemaking is about community cohesion and community connectivity. How do you use your built environment to build that? This is another example of it. Next one.
Then we go into the ecology event. That was another weekend event that took place here in partnership with multiple organizations.
Matt Coyle, shout out.
Yeah,
with
Matt
Rose,
Coyle was there.
shout out to sister.
Bonnie Montiel.
We had a wonderful lady who had
Yes.
some CBD coffee. She gave us all the ways to calm our chakra. We had a gentleman out there who had fresh juice. He was making juice and selling
Roger
fresh
Shaw.
made juice. We had spoken word given that day. Ms. Rhonda went out there and blessed our soul. We also had UNCW represented in some of the programs that they were doing. So shout out to UNCW for not sucking. There was a lot of representation from all across the board there.
And shout out to the Tuscarora Nation, the Native Americans
Amen.
that showed up, that demonstrated.
On this day, we had community
That's
members literally walk through neighborhoods and pick up trash, man. They was mobilized, they was organized inside the communities, probably places they wouldn't normally go on their own.
This wasn't an adopt the street event. It was show up, we're gonna go clean the highway.
We're gonna go clean the highway, we're gonna hang out, and it was an actual announcement that there were certain organizations that understood the significance and again, of bridging the actual gap or divide between who has access to the knowledge of ecology and who doesn't. Right? So again, placemaking is using this space for that. Again, but these are also programs you're going to hear about in other aspects of our thing. Let's keep moving forward. I think people probably got the ideal around our placemaking. So we got Shehan Whiteout, we got Keegan happening inside of our environment.
He's gonna start off the classes this month, actually.
Yeah, he's going to start his classes out this month. But the point is, we're using health and wellness being used within the space. You see the actual solar power stations. Again, shout out to Matt Coyle. You mentioned his name multiple times. But Matt Coyle was a boss, man. He's been down here, supported us in multiple different type of ways. Always want to salute him. We wouldn't be saying that just because he's on the actual call. We would say it if he wasn't present at all. And then you see our youth over here doing some cleaning up. These things are things outside of Sokoto House that look like placemaking. Again, we don't want to, be over.
It's just different examples of how you can use art, like
Exactly.
the memorial. It is a very good space. It's a good use of the space, but it's also an artistic representation of the space. You can go, you have a little bit of the history, you're able to read and educate yourself somewhere that you wouldn't normally go. If you guys don't know where that's located, that's on the north side.
And again, just to reiterate, the purpose of us bringing these other options up is to show you that by supporting this and making this successful here, also brings visibility for this same strategy to be used across, the actual city and across the county. So again, CCCPVS, placemaking, it's a part of how we're choosing to build cohesion and connectivity in our community as a way of preventing violence and actually healing violence. Next one. So, CCCPVS, let's stop real quick.
Does anyone have any questions, concerns, critiques, comments on the concept of CCCPVS and or placemaking? Even if it's, okay, so I understand what you're doing, but what can I do now? What are you looking for to make this happen? Off gate, donations, donations, donations. Stand by your names, physically support us, get someone to donate if you can't donate. That's always going to be a really good answer.
You can type it or you can actually speak. We can hear you, the actual mic is open. Okay.
Yes? No?
All right, so we get back to the presentation. So again, that's the first strategy. Again, is evidence-based curriculum. That matters because we're community members and people want to question our legitimacy. So we keep tossing it back out there. This is your strategy. Youth leadership development. Youth leadership development is, so first of all, you can use any program, and there's multiple programs in our city that's developing our youth as leaders and developing our youth as just healthy citizens, right? We're saying that we're prioritizing the development of our youth because at the end of the day, if you engage youth with knowledge around violence and how to understand violence and how to navigate violence inside their community, then those individuals, not as just youth and helping them survive, but as youth leaders. That's very key, right? We're trying to build leaders. We're trying to enhance their capacity to articulate and advocate for themselves. We're trying to enhance their capacity to become navigators and investigators in their community so they can understand where the problems are at, so they can begin to help address those problems. Right? So when we say youth leadership development, we're talking about activating the next generation to address a problem that we know is not going to be addressed in our lifetime.
But if we can give them the tools and the ability to do it, then you will be able to start seeing change.
Absolutely. Well, how we plan on seeing the change, right, is with the youth, but also with the adults who deal with the, you know what I'm saying, the actual
Partnerships.
exactly, but also the professional development with the community health worker model and different things of that nature. But the youth leadership is about immediate engagement to protect them, to be able to survive in their environment, but also when they actually become those actual leaders, because they will inherit that. We're consciously recognizing that we're placing tools in their hand to be able to help them address the situation. The strategy we're using is youth empowerment solutions, right? It's an evidence-based curriculum. That's going to sound redundant to you, but we're going to keep pushing that because we want to say that what we're doing is not something we came up with one late night drinking, kicking it, and hanging out. This is something that's been going on across the country. It's been measured. You know what I'm saying? Hundreds of thousands of dollars been put into it to show that it works. Youth empowerment solutions have this concept where you see the grid on the interpersonal, behavioral, and interactional. I'm gonna make it simple for you. It helps the youth engage themselves, understand themselves, right, and begin to improve themselves, right? That's that interpersonal. Regarding the actual behavioral component, right, it begins to think about how am I navigating my community. So as I'm navigating my community, I need to understand my community. I need to become more aware of my community. How can I actually improve my community? And then it finally comes together with adults, adult leaders, community members, community professionals, and it comes up with a project, always geared around a project, some type of activity where they go out and exercise the skill sets that they've been taught, whether it be public speaking, negotiation, advocacy, and they implement it in their community with some type of project with adults. Every one of our youth empowerment solution programs is going to look like connecting with adults to activate some form of community change project inside their community, right? So they'll be able to learn it and taste it, right? Youth empowerment solutions, go to the next slide. Youth empowerment solutions, as you see, is dealing with emotional intelligence, right? Workforce history and professional development, specialized career apprenticeships. So you're talking about being able to connect up with professionals in multimedia, connect up with professionals inside of
people are doing theater. People are
Theater.
doing technological aspects. There are actual artists who are working with our youth. There are people who are going to be coming to give like actual resume and professional development. So our youth are going to know how to not only present themselves but articulate themselves when they're doing those interviews. Fortunately, we have had a lot of community members from different genres reach out, and we're setting up those opportunities. And a lot of these opportunities are things that youth, and I hate the word kids, but kids across the nation don't have an opportunity, but much less minority.
And also, when you look at the alumni access, after they transition out of the program, that is our form of aftercare, meaning that they still have access to us. They still have our resources. We still do monitoring and checking up on them to see how they're doing. So when they transition out of the program, it's not like you're done. You still have access to Sokoto House resources and support.
Yes, we also looking to build a community and a family inside that. So again, the key point, let's move forward. Key point is that you have this development of leaders and building their capacity to not only understand the problems that's going on inside their communities, but to be able to navigate them by accessing workforce, you know what I'm saying, development and career development, but then also being advocates and executing change projects in their community. And again, just to be clear, Youth Empowerment Solutions has actually not only been established across the country, but it's actually been present here inside of Wilmington, North Carolina.
There was a
Right.
couple of youth projects you guys did.
So Youth Empowerment Solutions specifically with the Blueprint Commission back in 2016, 2017, up under the leadership of Brendan Galloway and myself at the time working with the BRC as a community outreach coordinator. The youth from the Voyage Youth Leadership Council was taught how to actually identify conditions in their community. They identified that their actual park didn't have access to water, didn't have access to bathrooms, and they wanted to address that. So we educated them and taught them and trained them how to engage public officials, which led them to go to city council and begin to advocate for themselves to actually get water, electricity, and bathrooms inside their community. That's Portia Hines Park on 10th Street. You hear that activity now, right? But understand that activity, the petitions and all that, came from the Youth Empowerment Solutions model executed by Brenda Galloway, myself, and the rest of the BRC team. But the point was, Youth Empowerment Solutions presented to them by way of the actual same strategy you see in today, first made its actual landmark that we know of, maybe it was here before. But as far as I know of, that was a very clear deliverable taking place here inside the city, right? And then beyond that, we had an activity this past summer where we did Youth Empowerment Solutions, and the youth kind of engaged, built their own businesses, and had a very fun time and whatnot. Yeah. So you guys have any questions about the youth leadership development and its capacity, or just any questions in general?
Very important. Very important.
Very important
that we
piece.
ask questions.
Well, they don't have to ask, but it's very important that piece is.
One of the things about Youth Empowerment Solutions.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Is there any questions? No, I think everybody okay? Feel free to type them in as well too if you have any thoughts. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, one of the things about the youth leadership development and tying it in with septet and placemaking that Abdullah kept honing in and emphasizing is building bridges and connecting. But for me, that translates into literally reinstituting trust in a system that in some way, shape, or form has ultimately failed the population that we're serving. So across the board, a lot of our driving force, especially mine, is building trust in a system that has continuously failed us. So yes, building up and identifying youth leaders is key, but the trusted relationships with the adults that they're going to build, the trusted relationships with the community members as they go and engage and they activate, and then in placemaking and in septet, the trusted relationships that organizations put inside of each other and in institutions and in buildings that they create, above all, that is key because the system we all know has failed us and the communities that we're serving.
Absolutely. So that goes back to that structural violence piece, as well as the advocacy goes back to the structural violence piece, and how do you prepare communities to address that? Excellent point, sis. Excellent point.
Next slide.
Next slide.
And this goes to our professional development.
Now,
Community health workers.
let's be clear. Community health workers. Let's go to the slide real quick. Go ahead, you can read that. So for some reason that's popping off.
It's
over
okay,
there.
it's I'll read it. A community health worker is a frontline public health worker who is a trusted member of and has an unusually close understanding of the community served. This trusting relationship enables the worker to serve as a liaison, link, intermediary between health and social services and the community to facilitate access to services and improve the quality and cultural competence of service delivery. A community health worker also builds individual and community capacity by increasing health knowledge and self-sufficiency through a range of activities such as outreach, community education, informed counseling, social support, and advocacy.
Absolutely.
So that's a whole lot.
This is what you guys want to understand about the community. You're going to hear a lot about the community health worker model because President Joe Biden actually declared, inside one of his plans that 100,000 community health workers he want to actually develop. Understand that the community health worker that he's talking about predominantly are community health workers that's navigating the health profession.
And the concept's been around since the 60s or something?
Well, the concept of a community health worker, in terms of being coined, was, it's been around 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
But the ideal of what a community health worker is just literally natural leaders in the community, natural resources in the community that people in the community go to in a time of crisis. Like right now, with all the violence and all the quote-unquote killing that's happening in the city, I promise you that there's 90% more lives being saved, there's 90% more people being taken care of than they are being hurt, than they are being killed. But they're not being talked about, right? The people who are doing that are not being highlighted. The people who are doing that are not being identified and being supported so they can do more of that, right? The community health worker, community professional development, right, focusing on the community health worker, is about identifying those community assets. Who are those community assets? I'm one of those community assets. Lily's one of those community assets. Vance is one of those community assets. As a profession, though, again, the community health worker, specifically in Wilmington and North Carolina, but also really across the country, has been traditionally identified within the actual health profession. I want to be clear on this, and this is going to be a very important point for a lot of people in this city. The model that we are actually presenting is a community health worker in violence prevention.
Specialized.
In violence prevention, right? As trained and as developed within Multnomah County between the years of 2011 2016 up under the leadership of Dr. Noel Wiggins. And I happened to be present there at that time. The first community health worker in violence prevention trained in this city was Sister Brenda Galloway while I was working at the BRC helping to establish their community outreach advocate model. right? The community outreach advocate model was a program designed to engage community members and actually help them by way of serving their families, by way of DC Virgo. When I interacted with the organization, we kind of collaborated together. It was a natural fit, and I brought that model as a community health worker. There's only 2 of us trained within that Multnomah County program with Center for Disease Control and Prevention, me and a gentleman by the name of Dwight Meyer. We brought that program here. Currently, right now, the reason why I'm making this emphasis is that currently, right now, there is national dialogues, and we're at those tables where this profession, community health workers and violence prevention, is being advanced. And they're talking about it very aggressively, right? And the goal is this. You have a thing called a socio-ecological model. The socio-ecological model within the public health profession deals with the individual, and it scales up into the family, then it scales up again into the community, and then it scales up again into the actual systems, right? The socio-ecological model is designed to show you how every particular aspect of society has its own kind of like point of actual contact and engagement. Well, the community health worker and violence prevention is designed to address the social determinants that exist within the individual, that impacts the individual, that impacts the family, that impacts the community, and then also engages the system in ways that the system impacts it. So the community health worker and violence prevention is trained to be able to navigate to address the social determinants. What are social determinants? Things that impact the health and wellness, either supports it or harms the health and wellness of an individual. The CHW in violence prevention is designed to go into the community, use its trust, use its understanding, use its connections, and be able to engage a family and say, how can I help you to overcome the challenges that you're individually and as a family dealing with? How are they supported? By interacting with the network of service providers. Individuals like a Vance Williams, a Lily Nicole, a Brenda Galloway, and myself, our job is to connect up with other organizations that provide food, housing, access to education, workforce development, career development, to secure a network so that when that community health worker goes into the community and sees that there's a particular problem that this individual or family is dealing with, their job is then to come back with us, we come up with a plan with that family, and then connect them to the needed resources they need. That's the concept of the community health worker and violence prevention, right? To navigate those particular points and not be restricted. We're not just focused on health, we may interact with the public schools, we may interact with public housing, we may interact with the foster care systems, we may transportation, right? Our goal is to connect with any particular aspect of society that's hindering that individual. And the reason why is that quality of life, right? A person has the right to live a quality of life. We believe it's a human right. It's something that the person should have, and we want to fight for them and advocate for them to have it. Next slide, please. Again, we mentioned 3 things. We're going to let Vance delve into it because he has a very specific, like 12, 13 years worth of connections with direct services, right? Wraparound services. Lily, she has her background in education and organizing as an activist. She's going to vibe with that, and I'm going to vibe with this executive level advocacy. But the point is, our model is real simple when it comes to the CHW. The CHW have 3 points of engagements. One is direct service. We go into the community, as I mentioned, we identify families that are in need, then we're providing them services using the wraparound model. The other point of engagement is to be an educator through health promotion and organizing the community, right? Teaching the community how to actually address their issues in their home and within their individual environments, as well as in terms of organizing the community against a system that may not be actually providing the services that they need, or to help the system do better. And then you have executive level advocacy, which looks like what we're doing right now, sitting at a certain table with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, a part of the national associations dealing with the community health workers, as well as navigating and engaging mayors or whoever else that may be local or whatnot we plan on engaging. So we'll start with direct services. This model is very key, that professional development model, because like right now, what's going to address gang violence in our community is that people who share that lifestyle, who've changed their lifestyle, can be able to go back in and actually help those individuals navigate out of that. What's going to change domestic violence, right, is people who have some acquaintance with that have relationships in those communities that can go and hold those community members accountable and say, nah, bro, that can't keep happening. And if it is going to happen, then we're all going to call the police and make them come in and do their job, because you can't keep abusing this person, right? The community professional development is really important. First slide, let's advance that.
Individual, relationship, community.
That's the ecological model. I already said that piece. We'll keep going. Hold on, go back. Anybody want to look at that? That's that ecological model, and I kind of jumped the gun on it and talked about it whatnot, but that's that whole piece: individual, relationship, community, and society. Right? Let's go forward.
Well, I'm gonna give you a clear understanding of wraparound service. We're gonna do a little transition, how we did it in the past and how currently, how we're doing it now. In the past, everything was based upon funding. If you had a family, you pointed out one particular thing, meaning if it was the youth, you dealt with the youth and nothing else. You had a targeted outcome, a targeted deliverable, and that was dealing with the youth. Well, we found out that is ineffective. In a household, you have multiple forms of supports. You have multiple forms of things going on in a household, and we figured out that it had to be a wraparound approach, meaning that it had to be team-based. You can't be effective if the household is not involved, and also not just the household, but the natural supports. The natural supports consist of friends, aunties, people that participant confides in. That is a natural support. You can't be effective if there's a crisis that comes up. You can't be effective if you're not getting his or her natural supports involved. But a lot of times when we get a participant or a client and we do intake or we do an assessment, the first thing that comes up is transparency. But transparency, when you're first trying to build a relationship, is not realistic. That the type of information you have to gather over time as you build relationships, or as you connect with natural supports. That is what the natural support is for. They will give you information that you won't previously get from the client that you're interviewing, but that's during intake, and that's when you do your assessment. Also, collaboration is paramount. Sometimes you don't have the resources. Sometimes you can't meet the immediate need. Your organization might not have housing, so you might need to connect with another organization, and that's what they specialize in, is housing. There might be some mental health issues there. If you're not a mental health professional, you need to refer them to a mental health professional. Also, cultural awareness. In order for a goal to be met, and that goal could be something simple: earn my GED. What does that look like in my community? What are my barriers? But also, you have to be aware of the cultural things, how people are wired in their community, how they respond to information in their community is quite different than somebody from someplace else that has all of the necessary resources to meet their goals. So so cultural awareness is very important when dealing with a client or a participant. Family-focused plan. And that means that you can have a participant with a goal, or you can develop a plan for him, but also the mother could also be in crisis. If you have a household and you're just dealing with that one youth and the mother is in crisis too, the mother feeds the child. The mother is sometimes the spiritual foundation of the child, or the youth. So if the mother is not getting assistance, you're wasting your time. So that means she has to have a plan too on how to deal with the youth, and also how to give her the necessary resources she needs to be successful. And also strength-based. A lot of times when we interact with a participant and we have information about them, right? A lot of times we might talk about that information, but that's not how you build relationship. Meaning, you talk about the negative aspects of that information that you receive, but it's something called positive behavior facilitation. That means I look at the potential and I ask key questions. What do you like? What are you interested in? And we look at their posture, we look at the way that they're sitting, and we promote that. We maximize that to build healthy and better relationships so we can get the information that we need, so we can get them the resources that they need, and that is strength-based focus. But that's something that, as a professional, we have to show empathy. In our profession, sometimes things can be ticky-tack and so organized that we lose that relationship and we lose that connectivity. But one of the key things is if any relationship is bringing out the positivity, bringing out the potential. So that's the core of the wraparound service. It's a process, but it ties in totally to the community health worker.
It's the tool. Yeah, it's the tool that the community health worker will be using to execute its roles as it relates to direct services.
Yeah.
And then Lily's going to share with us the tools that will be used to build and train the community health worker as it relates to the health promotion and community organizing.
Is there any question?
No, we're going to go over that.
Okay, so for health promotion and community organizing, the overall purpose is obviously to have a positive paradigm shift in cultural norms and health behaviors. Literally how community members think about their day-to-day, like what they consider normal, what they consider acceptable, or what they consider okay. Changing all of that, giving them a new way to address the situation, giving them a new way to approach life in general. Not saying what they're doing is wrong, just do it, look at it a different lens. I'm not trying to change your life, I'm trying to give you options. That can fall under developing, adapting, and implementing curricula and trainings. Like you said, it's the educational, the in-class, the hands-on. We're gonna sit here, we're gonna chop it up, we're gonna have mental promoting right here, potentially with the book. I'm very, very hands-on learning, so it's probably gonna be a lot of acting, role play type stuff, but you're gonna read. And then also petitions, rallies, data collection, and organizing community functions. Yeah, protesting falls under that. So what we did downtown this summer, that was gathering and rallying around the community, getting them all together, but collectively. It was a peaceful protest for over 100 days, and we definitely talked way more than we yelled. All of our marches were unified. We had a message. People were coming together to learn, to support, and to think about things differently. We weren't just down there screaming to be screaming, we were guiding ourselves and we were demanding more. Throughout the summer, we were learning about how the system was failing as we, as some of the non-elected leaders, were educating ourselves and learning from our community members and educating our community members on the importance, let's say, local elections. We needed new representation, and that was a huge push out there. People kept asking us why, so we started highlighting how systems were put into place to fail specific demographics. The north side, we highlighted the gentrification project, which they call it the beautification project, which is all the 20-year plan. There's so many different names as to why it's getting so wide over there. And we were educating people about that. We were educating them about how the funds were getting taken out of local schools for arts and stuff like that. So people started getting angry, and they were coming down to the protest because they realized they had more to protest. They were connecting as a community, and they were being brought together. And so that is one way to use popular education, which is a model that Dr. Noel Wiggins, thank God, she's introduced me to, as well as Abdullah, and I'm going to continue to learn more of it, that I'm going to use some of my strengths to not only interact with the youth, but the actual community itself. There will be more programming pushing that desire for knowledge and that desire for self. But there's also going to be more rallies, more gathering, more organizing, because there's a lot of things that need to happen in the community, and it won't happen without physical, hands-on, bodies getting together and showing up. Sokoto House has been my launch pad. Again, I'm super blessed that Saturdays and Sundays, when we have our community service, that is still a form of public education. They're coming out here of their own time and gathering. We're talking, we're educating, and we're building programs and projects from them just being here for a few hours. So it's an ongoing effort, and for me, I feel like public education is one of the most natural ways to push this concept because it does involve so many different ways to reach people. It's not just lectures and books, it's not just your typical schooling. It's finding out different ways individual pockets of the community learn best and then teaching to that strength. It's not a one shoe fits all. It's literally taking time for myself to step back and see and assess and learn and listen what's being said, and then using whatever tools I have to elevate individuals, elevate that community, and give them their voice. It's not for me to be the teacher of all teachers, but it's for me to take time to be a student, to become a teacher, to help elevate other teachers by any means necessary.
I mean, so listen, this was I need to get. Excellent, excellent, both of you guys. This model that we are choosing to elevate around the community health worker and violence prevention has these 3 points. And by the blessings of the Most High, right, you have individuals at the table, including Sister Brenda Galloway, and the more that's coming. We've been recruiting. We have a squad. We're trying to enhance that squad. But it's just a blessing that this paradigm has a gentleman as his own organization, right? 501c3 established, been doing work in this community, you know what I'm saying, 10, 11, 12, 13 years, wraparound services, behavioral modification. This is his actual work. This is what he's been doing. He's jumped on board here locally to say that I'm a community health worker because this model does represent me. That's right. Now he becomes this national voice for Wilmington because this is a national dialogue for the people that's listening. Sister Lily, her background in education, you know what I'm saying, background in organizing. What just recently took place inside the 2020 that just elevated her and various other personalities to actual spotlight when it comes to what does activism look like in 2020 here in Wilmington, right? As an educator, coming and taking on the role of health promotion and organizing, right? And we're looking to duplicate the Vances, we're looking to duplicate the Lilies, we're looking to duplicate the Brenda Galloways, looking to duplicate the Abdullahs, right? The next level of executive level engagement is about sitting at tables where, change popular education, executive level advocacy, sitting at tables where decisions are being made, where policies are being crafted, where individuals are making decisions on people's lives. And we're looking to actually arm community members to be able to bring their narrative to the table, speaking the language of the people in the rooms that they're in, so that they can effectively articulate the needs and the rights of the community that those people are making decisions about. Make no mistake about that. And we're looking for individuals to actually legitimately fund a profession that does that. I'm gonna say it again, we're not looking to actually create activists in the community that run in their free time and go and do what they need to do and barely make ends meet, but they're out there sacrificing their life to change society. We're looking for individuals who are committed to this work already, to be trained and hired, you know what I'm saying, and supported in their professional capacity to address these issues within the system.
And one of the big things I want to point out for the individuals who are listening, like the actual community members, some of those who we've spoken with, at the end of the day, above all, our goal is to get people paid to do what they're doing as long as it protects our people. Like, we're going to get you paid. But on that level, we want you to know that we're not changing your language, we're not changing your mission, we're literally just elevating what you're already saying, so that when you go to these meetings, when you go to the city councils, when you go and knock on so-and-so's door, you're speaking the language they want to hear. I like to refer them as trigger words, you know, the words that make people happy. Are you checking these little boxes? Are you, is it okay for me to sign this check off you? Are you actually doing good? We're going to make sure you're saying the key words that people aren't just going to close the door on you. Then when you go back to the community, you can still talk your talk, and still assimilate and be there. All we're doing is just teaching you how to activate yourself within the system to get the support that you need.
And also to change the system, because the reality is there's language out there within public health, right, that actually allows you to be able to actually challenge and disrupt some unhealthy behaviors within the system.
Because it's got to get changed.
And this is the piece though, right? So not only are we helping to develop the profession, there's about maybe 4 community health workers already in the city. They're hired within different entities. They're medically focused, maybe dealing with some form of chronic disease, obesity. Community health workers are here. There's a whole training that is out of North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, right, that they're promoting. We're not trying to buck that. We're looking for ways to integrate within that. We're looking for ways to integrate within that that's healthy for us. Our focus is violence prevention. And this is the piece though. We're at tables. So we're actively a part of National Association for Community Health Workers that's currently advocating with the Biden administration and various other entities throughout the country to organize community health workers so that they actually have a professional association, right? This is for community health workers across the board. We just happen to be at the table because we're helping to beat the drum around community health workers and violence prevention. That comes to Wilmington. That's going to come to Wilmington whether we get support or not, because it's already happening as we speak. But we need as many people in Wilmington, organizations, and other personalities to support this so that Wilmington can demonstrate what can community members do if they're properly supported to address the issues that's affecting them every day. That's affecting them every day, right? They're breathing this, they're living this, they understand this, right? So that's that piece right there. The national advocacy, right? There's advocacy, the executive advocacy at one level looks like interacting with systems here, mayor, county commissioners, yada, 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 yada. But at another level, it looks like also building, for us as community health workers, building a community health worker profession that protects those community members.
That's right.
But it also looks like advocating in other ways as well too. Just to kind of wrap that back around and whatnot. Is there any questions about the community health worker model for the people? I know I got any questions for that one. That's a y'all get it? Like, we got the right crew of people on the line.
I see Steve Lee.
Just gonna suck it in.
Hey, hold on, sorry.
We can hear you.
Oh, come back to me. Can I talk?
Yeah, you're good.
Hey, sorry, I had to go heat up some food for my boy. He came down here, he was hungry.
You straight? You just muted yourself, Frank. You just muted yourself.
Frank,
Frank.
unmute yourself.
You muted yourself.
Unmute.
You got it.
Sorry. I usually get muted. Anyway, man, props to all three of you. Vance, Lily, Nicole, Abdul, man, you three are definitely community assets. There's no doubt about it. Your passion, man, it's infectious. I mean, I'm so psyched to meet all well, I've met Lily, Nicole, but I haven't met you, Vance, or you, Abdul. I'm so psyched to come down and check out Sokoto House.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
And I love how Abdul said, putting spirit into a dormant asset. I mean, just the spirit, the vibe, everything is so awesome that you guys are saying, and you need to be heard. You obviously know your shit, and you need to be heard, and I love it. I love what you guys are doing. The thing that I guess I need help with is you guys kind of training me how to
Turn it up.
I can hear.
this is a lot of content.
Yes, sir.
And it probably be a thing where I just come down and talk it out. I think a lot of times it's just like you said, it's I think the post says a conscious collective thought.
Yeah. It is. I mean,
A Lily Nicolism. but like for somebody like me, like a white dude talking to another person. Obviously this presentation is phenomenal, but I need to get them to the table, so to speak, right?
Absolutely.
So I need you guys to kind of help me, kind of in layman's terms.
Mm-hmm.
Say, all right, man, here's what Sokoto House is doing. Here's what it's all about. But it obviously I'm not going to be putting together now a presentation.
Of course not. Yeah.
I got to get them to the table. So that's where I need maybe we can get together. I'm coming down Thursday. I know I'm coming down Thursday.
Okay.
To help unload some stuff, but I don't know if you guys will be around. But that's one of the things that I need help with is, man, I love it. I love it. I mean, this is so cool and it's so progressive and it's so needed.
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm so psyched about this. Like, you guys are killing it, and I love it. And this is just the beginning. I know. I mean, you're laying out a plan, and you need everybody to help you execute it. And
Yes,
you can't do it all yourselves.
You're right.
And it takes it takes all of us. It takes a community. It takes a village. One person said that's kind of cheesy, but
No, but it's real,
but it
though.
does. So anyway, that's the one thing like that. And I love you have a place where people come together, because what's so crazy is like you said, having a dormant asset. I mean, how many of those are there? And I was actually just telling my son when I was heating up his food. It's like some microwave thing. But anyway, I was explaining to him what was going on, and how there's really not a place like that where white people, whatever, they all get together and just sit down and just talk things out.
Yes, sir.
And that's something. If it's existed in Wilmington, I didn't know about it. I'm moved, and I'm excited to do what I can to help, and anyway, I'm here to support you in any way I can, and
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks, Frank.
Shout out, props to you guys. And I'll be muted. I'll mute myself.
No, you're good, man. I just want to share with you that everything you've asked for is 100% already available and even more so available. We appreciate you, man. Literally been keeping us posted. We kind of got a vibe, you know what I'm saying? The relationship is already established. So it's all good, man. We look forward to being able to build with you, you know what I'm saying? And you build with us, you know, and we make this happen, man. Like everybody, we all in this together, man. So the doors are wide open, you know what I'm saying? So any way we can actually make that cohesion. When we're talking cohesion, we're not just talking about cohesion of, you know, marginalized populations, right? We're talking about cohesions of humanity, right? You know what I'm saying? All of us bringing our collective genius together to figure out how to make our world a little bit better. It may sound cheesy, but that's real talk. That's what we on out here. You come up beside Sokoto House, that's what you're going to hear on a daily basis. Human rights, you know what I'm saying, for everybody, man, how we make it happen. So we appreciate your comments, man, and thank you, bro. Look forward to being able to meet you.
I look forward to meeting you guys.
Yes, sir. Anything else on the community health worker model for the people that's still present? Any questions, any clarifications? Now we got a few more programs to present to you. Okay, let's keep pushing.
Community Healing Initiative. So the Community Healing Initiative is exactly what it says. It's putting healing back into the community. This one is focusing on identifying the trauma and identifying treatment. We're using paraclinical trauma and paraclinical treatment as our focus because there's a lot of things that go untreated and undiagnosed properly because not everything that's wrong is something that you can do or deal with inside of a medical setting. Again, that's not to knock the community health workers in the medical profession who are doing it, but it's to highlight that there is other healing that needs to take place and it's not all in the medical field. And this is because of your exposure to violence.
So the reality is this, is that, and we're going to run through this, we don't want to stay too late with you guys, but the reality is this, is if they can't bill it, if they can't diagnose it, they can't bill it. If they can't bill it, they're not going to treat it. I'm going to say it again. If they can't diagnose it, they can't bill it. If they can't bill it, then they can't treat it. And if they can't treat it, that means we're dealing with it every day inside of our lives, right? That trauma, right, that is in our community trauma, paraclinical, right, community trauma, it needs to be healed in the community. And it's going to require community members, youth and adults, right? Youth leadership development, community professional development, right? The connections and the actual connectivity that they actually have to go back into the community and reconnect. Because trauma is all about unhealthy relationships. How I've been damaged, how I've been hurt by the world, well, the best way to treat that is to restore that trust, is to restore that actual connectivity by actually doing the opposite, right? And what we're saying that there's many things that causes this healthy relationship. There's many things that causes this trauma, but the thing that we're focusing on and the thing we feel like is one of the most paramount problems is communities' exposure to violence. Exposure to violence that we cause ourselves, we hurt ourselves, as well as the violence that systems may impose upon us based on neglect or other things of that nature. Now, we brought in the conversation about epigenetics because typically you hear the conversation around epigenetics as it relates to trauma, right? How there's these bubbles of things inside of our actual cells, inside of our genetics, that depending on our actual nurture, our environment, it triggers this trauma, right? That's been passed down from generation to generation. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We believe there's also epigenetic healing. There's epigenetic resilience. There's epigenetic sources of actual resistance, right? We believe that there's things that can be triggered by the outside environment that actually activates these particular properties of healing inside of us. Nature versus nurture, we're looking to actually build that and educate communities on how to respond to that, especially if clinical environments are not responding to it. The term we're using to understand that the most is toxic stress. Toxic stress and the role in which stress plays and imposes itself and deteriorates the central nervous system of a human being, which causes mental health problems, and the actual immune system of a human being, which causes human beings to be more at risk for chronic diseases. Right? Again, next conversation, you're going to always see that we're going to use dualities. Right? We believe the same thing that can happen with the individual can happen with the community. We believe the same problems that's in the individual is also the same problems you can look at paradigmically or through a paradigm that's for the community. So when you hear the term ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences, our program, Sokoto House, the Cape Fear Comprehensive Community Violence Prevention Strategy is going to share with you the research and the data that also shows you information around adverse community experiences. right? You hear adverse childhood experiences, everybody's talking about it, talking about how we actually have to get these children identified, get them treatment, and be able to serve them in that particular manner. That's your resiliency task force you have going on in our city. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? There's additional research that shows that there's adverse community experiences, right? And when you treat a child and bring that same child in the clinical environment back into their home, and that family has not been treated, all that child is doing is being re-abused. It's going through trauma again. And we're saying that it has to be, key word here, ladies and gentlemen, comprehensive. And if you look at the flyer, that comprehensiveness needs to include community, baby. It needs to be, we all have to do it together, right? We all have to get together. I don't want to keep holding y'all, so we're going to move forward on that. But that's the Community Healing Initiative, your community health workers, your youth leaders. We're seeking to activate them through health promotion. We're seeking to activate them to get into the community and begin to actually initiate natural ways and begin to elevate breathing, elevate physical activity, elevate qigong, and thinking about the quality of your sleep and your food and just
We've already got programs that we're partnering
water,
with.
right?
So we have our garden, our healing program. We have the qigong classes that we do here. We also have some art projects that are up in the works that we're coming for educational components for the youth to be able to take it home and learn from it. So again, it's an all-inclusive, like, community approach. We're hitting all of them.
Renaissance nights, for those that know that, right? That's going to be cracking off again soon. But the point is, everything that we did, the youth leadership development, the community professional development, right, and those programs all emerge in to begin to think about community healing. But I'm going to say this one last thought on this subject. Our healing, in no way, shape, form, or fashion, looks like us teaching people how to absorb suffering.
Right.
We're also concerned about helping them stop the cause of the suffering. Help them how to articulate and advocate for themselves and position themselves to stop this behavior. And all of us support them in stopping the behavior. Brother Kevin, thank you.
And these are some examples that fall under. Again, we're reemphasizing efficacy, cohesion, arts, literacy. There's a lot of ways we're going to use to spread this word.
All right.
We'll move this
Yeah,
one.
good.
Community-based participatory research, real simple. Move to the slide. This is the evidence-based strategy. So far, you've heard, everything you've heard, except for the Community Healing Initiative, has been evidence-based, meaning this is thing that's recognized nationally. Community Healing Initiative, there's evidence-based models out there, so like ACE, right? But we're going to be very accurate as possible. We can't say that the initiative that we're using for community healing is evidence-based. We're pulling things together and we're saying that we're prioritizing this, right? Community healing, right? We may use strategies as evidence-based, but that in of itself is not an
It's
evidence-based
like life
piece.
experience-based.
Community-based participatory research is an evidence-based model, evidence-based strategy. This is taking qualitative and quantitative. You notice I didn't say qualitative versus quantitative. I didn't say the narrative or the details versus the numbers. I'm saying that we're activating community health workers, we're activating youth leaders to get into the community, grab a hold of the narrative, the details of what is the quality of service being provided to you. What is the actual conditions going on inside your environment? Taking that data through focus groups, through one-on-one interviews, through other forms of actual documentation by way of research, and we're combining it and adding it into the data. We're bringing the data to life so that when you produce a report, they see the full details of what's really going on in any particular program or any particular community. We're activating the community to be involved in research.
We're educating them to control their narrative, and on not only how, but the importance of why.
Narrative, funding, right? And the role of their politicians. Community-based participatory research leverages a narrative that regulates the quality of actual service provided to you by your professional politicians and the level of actual quality of services that's being funded through organizations and saying, are you really serving this community?
Transparency and accountability.
And activating the community to know that their voice matters, right? So again, this is something that's well established and we plan to bring it. It's already here, but we plan to actually elevate it is the language we want to use. We want to elevate it and we're going to integrate it into everything that we're doing. We have an excellent team. We're looking for other researchers. We have a solid team that's on board right now. We're looking at to increase that team of researchers. We're looking to increase our actual youth. You know what I'm saying, team we have a couple youth already kind of joining on board with us and whatnot, participating in developing actual tools for research.
Yeah,
that's young Griffin Roberts over there, right? You know what I'm saying? Literally youth developing tools for research so that community members can learn to capture and community organizations to learn to capture their data and then add the actual narrative to it so that no one else can interpret their data for them.
Ownership.
We're moving forward.
So that's our community-based participatory research.
Okay, let's see back. What's that? Oh,
It's professional.
yeah, okay.
Turn the camera on.
Citizen, we have to ask you. You have any questions about the community-based participatory research? Any questions about that?
No.
Yeah, you
It's
did?
good.
All right, we got a special treat for you guys. Brother Roberts?
Do you want to cover the first two?
Okay, okay. So this is some active, so currently right now, so this is to talk about, without any funding right now, just how we're operating. You already see all the stuff that we're already doing. But currently right now, we actually are getting ready to initiate here in the next maybe week, opportunities for youth to join the Youth Empowerment Solution Strategy, right? With a couple of these particular programs we have set up here, right? Workforce training internships, there's 2 of them. One is dealing with American Heart Association CPR training, right? So I'm BLS certified through American Heart Association. I actually teach CPR, and our goal is to train youth to work with me while I'm actually getting paid to do it, and I'm training people in CPR. They'll be actually working with me, learning and being paid to actually do the CPR or to teach CPR, while at the same token, there'll be other funds connected to them going through other trainings inside of our actual center, volunteer hours and different things of that nature. So that's an active program, and that's just me having a credential to do CPR and saying, hey, look, I'm gonna bring a youth on and share whatever revenue I make with them, and then take another percentage, put it to the side. I'm giving y'all secrets now.
It's like an apprenticeship. It's something we've been asking for. Someone in the community who has a leg up or a hand up, willing to invest in the youth, give them a wage to learn and to work, and then set them up for success when they're done, because they've got a little bit of money that they've gathered, they've got the knowledge they gathered, they've got the capacity that they've built while training. Now go out there into the community and do good.
Absolutely. And then workforce training internship, that's you though, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I'll let you go.
All right, so listen, guys. So this is one of our other teammates, man. I'm talking about major factor in a lot of what we have going on behind the scenes, man. Kevin Roberts, he's on our advisory board, in addition to Matt Coyle, also on our advisory board for Sokoto House. But Kevin has also been behind the scenes with the multimedia, a lot of our website stuff, and he's also developed a few programs. So I'm gonna let him kind of articulate what it is we got going on, and he can have my seat when he's doing that. I can get some water.
Hey, y'all. So what I do in my 9 to 5 and with a side job of mine is part of it is IT installations for training centers, and another part is developing computer-based training, mostly for industrial contractors. But I thought, that's something that I always need help with, and I figured, why not bring community members on board, especially youth or young adults, so that they can learn some useful skills in multimedia and in IT, and it would be a similar arrangement to what Abdullah was talking about, where they would come with me, they'd be billed at the same rate that I get billed at, but they would be paid a portion of that, and the other portion would be rolled right into Sokoto House to continue the program. So I just thought that would be a great idea, talk with Abdul about it, and where it goes. So
Technology is running the road, man. So if we can train our youth to take over, I'm here for it.
But it's also a way for somebody that don't necessarily have a work history to build their work history, to put something on their resume.
So one additional thing, stay there. One additional thing, I'm just going to talk behind the mic, is all the community health worker trainings, all the youth leadership development trainings, and all of our data. Right? So y'all hear me?
you're in front of the camera.
I'm in front of the camera. I'm sorry. See,
No, you good.
I guess I step over here. Is the infrastructure? Again, this comes to play. It's going back to what Frank said, and also other people, man, in terms of how you can actually plug in, man.
Sponsor again.
Like Kevin has came and brought, like, in addition to many other things, purely his skill set, right? And his skill set has created a type of infrastructure for us that is at another level of the game. So when I tell you that every person that goes through a program with us, whether it be the youth, they're going to be connected to an academy, right? That's going to be activated through Moodle. We're going to tell you a little bit about that. When I tell you that every person we encounter, right, Shout out to Brian Blake, right, of Blue Ribbon Commission. One of the things that he brought into the community health worker model that we introduced there at the Blue Ribbon Commission was the use of Salesforce, right? Janet Jones Hall is also awesome as well too, amazing mind, right? But specifically about the community health worker model, Brian actually used the Salesforce concept. We're using this concept as it speaks right now to capture all of our families and all the people that we serve. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about how that particular platform is going to be able to assist us in capturing data, raw quantitative data as well as qualitative data based on reporting from the community health worker. So again, just to give an example of how a community member, just pure plugging in, coming out here, just helping with his son, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Griffin, and just kind of just helping. How can we help, man? With just the garden and different things, and then as time progresses, start finding out what they do and how they do, and just totally plugged in and integrated themselves, man, and taking what we've done to a whole other level. Y'all gonna be impressed when y'all hear about some of that stuff. So. The PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
Just click. Click again.
What?
Click again. There you go. All right. So the first thing I'll talk about is Salesforce, as Bill was talking about. Salesforce, the CRM in that stands for, it was originally designed as a customer relationship management system. As it sounds, it was originally created as a way for businesses to manage a company's relationships and their interactions with their customers or potential customers. Now just imagine if you take the word customer out of there and plug in constituent or community member. That's what it gives us the ability to do. So we can put this tool in the hands of the community health workers, and they can establish all those relationships in the community, determine needs analysis to find out who needs what services, and then determine the best way to address those services. And as well, it's constantly collecting data that we can use to develop new programs or improve existing programs. So, you know, that has a lot of potential moving ahead. Volunteer tracking, that's something that was mentioned that Griffin and another youth, Ahmed, are working on. That's to just as a means to log volunteer and service efforts with Sokoto House, and an additional tool to gather demographic information for anyone who's participating in the programs and events through Sokoto House. It also provides a centralized means of gathering that data. The last thing I'm going to talk about is Sokoto House Academy. That is a Moodle is an open source free learning management system. It's actually used in a lot of learning institutions across the world. We've got a Moodle installation that's actually on the SokotoHouse.org site. It's not linked from the main site yet, but it's there. Right now, there's no content in there, but that's what we're going to be working to develop. So this could open up a huge range of possibilities for providing a source of basically free online e-learning, training, you know, the creation of curricula and tracking the progress of participants. This could apply to youth and youth programs. It could apply to the community health workers. Anybody who has an account will be able to use and reference any of the materials contained in it. And the community health workers will also be able to manage it to an extent, to assign curricula to participants of programs and to track their progress. We could store any number of different types of learning materials on there. It could be simple reading assignments, it could be videos, it could be computer-based training, or it could be culturally relevant or topically relevant subjects. It can also be used to deploy surveys and feedback mechanisms so that we can do sort of in-house quality control over the programs here. With that about wraps up.
Actually, I've got something on the volunteer tracking thing.
Okay, yeah, please.
Especially if you're creative. I got that.
Hey, this is Griffin, my son.
So my name's Griffin. I've been working with Ahmed on the volunteer tracking, and as far as what my father mentioned, as far as the demographical information, etc., pretty much the main goal of that is not only to help out with gathering resources for the community, but also resource allocation. So finding out who needs what and where it needs to go so that we can put more volunteers in an area or something else like that so that we can have more people or more resources devoted to the areas that need it. Because if you put the same amount everywhere, that just kind of ends up not working out, or it's equality, not equity. So that's all I had to add.
Good job, bro.
That's actually really good. Also, I like your shirt.
That was awesome, first of all. Like,
It's like whatever it is, hey.
yeah, it's representing. All right, so we're at the end of towards the end of this. We move to the next one. Let's see what we got working with.
Well, one thing we want to remind while we're moving to the next slide about the technology piece that we want to point out with the academic school, the online thing, it's not just going to be for our youth training. It's going to be for a lot of the programs that I'll be working with. It's going to be for the individual community health workers. But outside of that, that is your curricula. Everything that you learn and you take part of, if you want to peace out and go to the east side or you want to go to another state, you take all of that with you. We're not keeping the knowledge. So anything that we're birthing here or we're sharing here is just that. We're sharing it. You get to take everything with you. We want everything to go with you. We don't have ownership of this. We literally want everything that we're doing to be scalable, to be remodeled, and to be taken somewhere else, even if it's outside of the state. So that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Everything you learn, it's yours to take with you.
Yeah, we're building professionals, community health workers. Our goal is to get them hired somewhere else. We're not trying to gang community members and have a lot of money come into our center to be able to hire all these community health workers. We're looking to actually deploy them into other organizations, support them to provide services, whether it be in mental health, whether it be through one of the schools, whether it be through juvenile justice. They'll be deployed there, hired there, and then they'll still have access to the association or the network of community health workers that's actually organized throughout Sokoto House, continue education, continue network resourcing, different things of that nature. And if they leave the country or leave the state, they walk away with their Salesforce platform and they have access to all the work that they've done as professionals. Whether they leave us on good terms or bad terms, the goal is to build their capacity and build this profession.
Alright, so then wrapping this up, we're rolling into a list of our partners. These are some of our existing partnerships, and we want to shout out, hands down, thank you for those who have officially already stepped up and put their name out there. You guys can take a breeze through and read it. Sorry. You guys take a breeze through and read them. Thank you for everyone who's partnered with us already. Like I said, it's the National Association of Community Health Workers. Cape Fear Collective, we're working on building a partnership with them to have sustainable data collection as we go forward, but also in the training and the research portion. Lowercase Leaders, shout out to you guys for hooking up and supporting us. If you're on the call. Planet Logo, thank you Frank for stepping up. Clean Energy Events, Coil Solar LLC, Matt, we've shouted you out 1,000,001 times, we're going to keep on. Great Raven Media, thank you so very much for all the wonderful talents, Griffin, our junior Great Raven Media representative in here as well. Algernon Teens Against Violence, another nonprofit organization here in the community, actively doing work against violence. Outside the fact their name is in it, they've been doing the work. And HP Banks, thank you so much, Grayson, for your support on that.
Absolutely. And then also another big shout out to young Christopher Everett and his In Wilmington on Fire. Everybody knows he's filming here inside the city. He's been posting that he's been filming us. Beyond, this being a part of the documentation, long history with Chris, man. Always a positive guy, always supportive, always looking for ways to be able to plug in. So, salute to him and his team for the work that they're doing and the visibility they've been bringing to the Sokoto House, as well as to Lily and the lowercase leaders.
Help us control our narrative.
Young brother, who's the young brother? Name for some reason, but is it Chris? Not the water.
Oh, Cedric.
Yeah, Cedric Harrison. I don't know why it's making his mind, but yeah, Cedric Harrison is also, filming him and paying attention to what he's doing and whatnot. So, There you go. What's next? See if we can hold you guys
Just
along.
us, yeah.
That's it, man. Is there any comments, anything? This is recorded. We're gonna go ahead and share it. You know, we probably edit some portions of it for the public, but for you guys are in attendance. If you guys need this or want this, you have full access to it. We'll send it to you. You can kind of go over it as well as the PowerPoint. But yeah, is there any questions or any comments anybody have before we wrap up? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just am really excited about what you're presenting tonight, and to see it really coalescing is just really exciting and very gratifying to be included. So thank you for having me and everyone here tonight. I think we all feel the same way that it's something exciting to be a part of. And,
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
I had some comments. You know, I know this is probably a group setting. I don't know if this is the time I should give you criticism about the presentation.
Please do.
Please,
you have-
Please do.
I'm with it.
Transparency, man. Say what you gotta say.
We wait.
Okay, one of the things that occurred at the very beginning to me is that you were mentioning CPTED, CPTED, and I understand, you know, what you guys, the model that you've been, you know, describing and stuff to me over the course of many months, but I think you really need to explain what CPTED is over and over again. That's something that needs to be really spoken to. That acronym, you know, obviously has some significance, and I think it's an important thing to bring into the conversation, not just as an acronym, but as a descriptor that you can dig in. And then, and I'm just going to run through my notes here. Yeah, the slides, the presentation is really solid, and one of the things I noticed is that you guys weren't maintaining a real strict regimen or coordination to the slides. So,
Yes. That's me.
yeah.
That's me. I'm sorry. It's all in my head, so I'll be like, sometimes it's kind of hard to catch up with the pushing the buttons, though. But thank you, though.
No, and of course this is not anything personal. I'm trying to provide.
No,
Hey,
you're
man,
You good, bro?
You, man.
You good.
That's why we connect.
Run it.
Yeah. So, you know, maintaining that strict control of the message corresponding to the slide is really important, because the stuff that you're sharing is equally vital and interesting. So it really divides the attention of critical thought, and so it's very important to maintain that regimen and consistency to the message that the slide's presenting. I think is something. And again, going back to CPTED over and over again, describing what that is.
Just for clarification on that. So, CPTED, we're actually seeking to shift the paradigm on that. Like the CPTED model is based off of Mayor Giuliano of New York's concept of the broken glass theory, right? So what we did in Portland, Oregon, is because it's a public health strategy and they recognize it as an evidence-based curriculum, they use the model called placemaking. So placemaking is a form of actual CPTED. You're right, we probably should have mentioned that it's crime prevention through environmental design, but our goal is to shift away from that language and actually say that we're coining it placemaking, but it's still evidence-based, it's still connected to what they identify as crime prevention through environmental design. It's just so heavily, you know, public safety enforcement based. And the reality is what they learned once they did that is that the way they was able to get community members and community-based organizations on board was to speak more about the community cohesion and what it's seeking to do to prevent violence, right? But this concept of crime prevention through environmental design, just that language and this narrative with Giuliano just breaks it. So we're really trying to mention it like that and go to placemaking. But we should probably explain that as we're evolving and trying to communicate, explain that in the beginning, and then start putting the drum beat on placemaking. So I appreciate your comment. Just want to be clear though, we don't want to.
We're not pushing CPTED. We're definitely pushing placemaking more.
But it's the CPTED evidence-based model that is clearly, you know what I'm saying, what it is we're focused on. But the language that was shifted in Portland, Oregon was that they chose to focus on placemaking as a substitute to the name. If that makes sense.
I get it now, you know, in a much more, you know, I'm just more cognizant now why the shift, you know, in the language.
Thank you, Joanna.
So that's really good. And then let me see if I got any other notes here.
Just for the record, guys, you see on the film right there, Brenda Galloway. Say hi, Brenda. Wave your hand. They see you. That's the community health worker. That's the first one here that was trained in the CHW model in violence prevention here in Wilmington. I personally worked with her.
She's in the Silk Road Cafe making coffee right now.
Absolutely. So, just to give y'all a sense, y'all see her in the community for those that don't know her or whatnot, but she's right back here on site, here in Sokoto House or whatnot. That's one of our, kind of like our elders or whatnot, when it comes to the leading of the community health worker model in violence prevention here. So.
Yeah, and then my last note, I noticed in the second to last slide, or in the slides discussing participatory models, I think participatory was misspelled one time.
My bad.
Thank you though, bro.
Matt, man.
We're gonna bring, hey, Matt, we're bringing you in for the next prepare the next presentation, man. You're gonna be our coach. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate you, bro. Hey, but let me go.
I love all of you.
Before we go, but that's the level of environment we have here at Sokoto House, and we also wanted this environment to be, man, like, this is not about us, right? We understand that we're imperfect. We understand that what we're doing has imperfections. It's about how many people are willing to come in and help us make this that much more effective.
And even if all you're doing is sharing the conversation, getting it started, sharing the YouTube videos, sharing the clips, I promise you that does more than you can imagine, because you know people I don't know, and if you just share the video, they may reach out to me or they may reach out to Vance or Abdullah, make the connections that we can't make.
Sokoto House Coffee.
Hey, Josh.
Josh showed us and mentioned Sokoto House Coffee. Everybody here probably know about the coffee, man. But
Hey, Steve.
right there, Miss Brenda showing you right there.
Coffee.
That's a whole nother initiative where we got a partnership, man, with somebody that, when I tell you they gave us an excellent deal, man, just to be able to support what we're doing, I can't even, it's an industry secret. I won't even tell you what it was. But the point is, everything is coming back into Sokoto. There's no profit in that. Everything that you buy is literally going back into Sokoto House. We even have a system set up for individuals that want to actually go get at corporations or go get at big churches or big other institutions and say, hey, look, buy some of this coffee here, monthly, weekly, and they'll get an actual percentage of the actual sale. So there's opportunities for people to make money, and depending on how much they're buying, the person interested in it, we're 501c3. We got 2 active 501c3s here. This is coming back into the community. We can take a percentage and make it tax deductible, right? Everything is for building what we're doing here. You know what I'm saying? So something to think about. So this one other thought is real clear. If you need some coaching around how to articulate what we're doing, an actual promotion kit of what we're doing to be able to slide in front of somebody, right now as we speak, we're looking for 3 things. We're looking for grant writers, and we're looking, and people who can locate grants and write grants for us, help us write that. You see all the content and data we have and whatnot. It's low-hanging fruit for anyone that has that. We're giving 10%, man. Whatever, like off top, like I'm saying, like that's just transparent. We're not trying to ask somebody to do anything for free, right? You know what I'm saying? But we have very little money up front to give someone to do it hourly type thing. So, the going rate right now is 7 to 10% for grants, right? So we're willing to actually present that back to a person if they work and mutually risk to write the grant, secure the grant. We write a contract with them, they'll get that actual, return on that particular grant.
Regardless of the amount of the grant. Like
it doesn't matter. We're not
10%.
we ain't here to win like that. You know what I'm saying? The other thing is, so the second thing we're looking for regarding this strategy, right? So grant writers is one. The second thing we're looking for, we have a pretty solid team. We're looking for more people. Is going to be our research team. We are looking to take this strategy and beginning in a year to a 3 to 5 year plan so they can become something that's duplicable across the country, that's scalable. So in order to do that, we're going to have to secure our data, you know what I'm saying, and then publish our data. We're going to go to IRB, Institutional Review Board, the review board, you know what I'm saying, a registry, where we can actually research this and write an article on it, because the goal is, because it was successful inside Portland, if we can do it here with a subtle modification through a community-based lens, then we want to be able to say this is something that can happen anywhere inside the country, and people can then use this model and try to secure funding through it. So we are looking for researchers or people that's interested in plugging in. So if you got friends, kind of like some quiet but dynamic personalities,
or even
awesome.
associations with like universities and things of that.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. People that may be working in the university. Some people got university friends that's working, that's super awesome, that's not really actively looking for anything to do, but if they was told about the right thing, they'll jump in and you have a jewel, right? If you know people like that, we're looking for that. So grant writers, researchers, this is the third thing. As soon as, there we go. Now, as soon as we get, the only way this initiative thrives effectively is that we build a robust stakeholders group, a committee of community members, professionals, organizations, government, community-based organizations. We're gonna have to have a regular gathering where there's people driving these strategies. These strategies will not just be implemented by Vance, Lily, me, Brenda, or you guys. It's gonna be implemented by active team players within a multi-sector network of professionals who come to the table and say, okay, great, I love yes. How do we make yes happen on the ground? Do we just do yes in Sokoto House? Can we do yes inside of Houston Moore? Can we do yes in Creekwood? Can we do yes over here? If we can, who are the contact people, right? What about SEPTED? Is SEPTED just Sokoto House? Is there other places to do SEPTED? The more and the stronger we have that stakeholder group, the more expansive and the more effective we're going to be in executing this comprehensive plan. So that's the third thing we're looking for, is people interested to join our stakeholders group, right? So our stakeholders committee, so we can, and they will be the drivers and executors of this particular plan. Meaning anything that we do, generally speaking, not everything, right? We want to have a whole group of different people micromanaging us, right? But generally speaking, they will be the individuals that anything we have going on, we'll present it back to them, they'll share their ideas, and we'll listen to their ideas, and then they will help us not only craft our final product, but also implement our final product. So grant writers, researchers, and then a stakeholders group. And outside of that, y'all already know what it is, man. Like, we need people that's going to financially, you know what I'm saying, hold us down. You know, we haven't got the grants, we haven't got money, right? We don't have everything in place right now. This is just us. We're doing this off of our own energy right now. You know what I'm saying? We committed, we feel confident about it, we're not slowing down. You know what I'm saying? Momentum is actually building. But in order for us to be effective in this first anywhere from 8 to 9 months to a year, we're going to need some seed money to make happen what we need to happen. They don't have to put the money in our hand, they can keep it inside their bank. And when we need something, we'll bring them the project, bring them a budget, but we're going to need financial support. This is not money to actually give him a job, to give her a job, to give me a job. This is money to fund the program.
Potential investors.
Potential investors to fund the program, right? That's the things that we're looking for. And, you know, we'll make the video available for you guys. We really, really, genuinely, sincerely appreciate you guys taking the time out to share. If the Most High blesses it to be something amazing, just know that you guys signing into this, your names being connected to this, show that you showed the interest on the front end, not when everything was bubbling and the whole country was paying attention.
But also
Right.
just know we're not going to blow your email with random spam. You're not on an email list.
Mac has a question.
Yes, sir, Matt.
Yeah, so I wanted to, you know, I've been thinking a lot about when we would go and introduce the program and the things that we're all working on to this community of entrepreneurs called Tech Mountain. It's a co-working space, and I think this needs to be practiced a couple more times, but you guys are really have got a sparkle, you know, I can see the diamond in there, and we need to take this to Tech Mountain and ask them to write checks that night, right then, like twist the arms there, and get them all there, you know. And I think that's something that I wanted to mention right now, so that we could all talk about that. That this is a resource here, an underutilized resource in Wilmington called Tech Mountain.
Well,
It's a
I think-
co-working space.
Yeah, I think what we want to do with those type of spaces and those type of opportunities is, you know, make some actual key connections, invite some individuals to come sit down and vibe with us. You know, we're all personalities, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're like, you know, we're unforgiving personalities because there's a lot of stuff going on, man. So we're like, people have to be willing to welcome us inside their space and be comfortable with what we bring. You know what I'm saying? I'm not unaware of who I am and what I am. I'm very aware that I consider myself a liberated-minded human being, man. I'm very, you know, tactful. I'm very courteous, but I'm also gonna say what I need to say and whatnot. So, if you know people, if people know people, you know what I'm saying? Tell them to reach out, man. Or have us reach out to them on a one-on-one personal. Let's connect. Let's connect as human beings. And then, as we connect as human beings, if they feel comfortable with their interacting with, and what's the overall objective, and you know, because people got careers and relationships, man. They don't want to put things at risk. I understand that. I don't want to just kind of go bar somebody's spot, say, hey, look, I want to just present here, and then I get there and whatnot. They look at me like, oh, why didn't you say that? Or why did you even interact like that, right? If they can come vibe with me one-on-one, vibe with us one-on-one, or you can get them there, you know what I'm saying, have that conversation, we'll connect, man.
Oh,
You know?
they'll vibe. We need to get you there. Because you got
I'll
the
go.
sizzle.
No, I know we go, but we want to, it's a way,
You know.
I got you.
They
It's a-
do people.
We'll definitely reach out.
Good company.
Tech Mountain's not off our radar. Tech Mountain's not off our radar. We have conversations.
Yeah,
But that-
and
but
we
that-
can go on, that this is, you know, a TED Talk style thing, and, you know, it's already at Fahrenheit 451, so, let's do it.
Like a boss. All right, we're gonna wrap up, guys. Hey, thank you guys so very much. You guys deeply appreciate it. Unless you guys have any more comments or anything for us or whatnot, obviously each one of you guys, if you don't know, Steve Lee, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, you know what I'm saying? Frank, you know now. Rick, all you guys know, man. Like, the rest of y'all low-case leaders, y'all found anyway, man. Come check us out. We here, you know what I'm saying? Here at Sokoto House. Share with your family and friends. You know, if anybody's interested, they can also come talk to us as well, too. You can tell them literally, this is Abdullah's number. I'm gonna call him, you coming down there. Abdullah, you down there? Yeah, such and such coming to talk to you. That's how we is. Open door invitation, same thing with Lily, same thing with Vance. We're trying to build with humanity, trying to make something happen. So don't feel any inhibition in that. Peace and blessings, and thank you guys so very much.
Abdul.
Yes, sir.
I
Frank.
got one question.
Yeah.
Yes,
I got
sir.
one question. So, are you guys there from 9 to 5, 10 to 5? What you got?
Typically-
Spot 5? Say I run into somebody, say, hey, let's go down to Sokoto House.
Yeah, so
How's it set up?
So typically, you know, we're gonna find someone here between 9, you know, and 5 o'clock, but what I always advise people who are like, you know, close companions, like would consider yourself, relationship that's building and whatnot, literally let us know. Call one of us and find out if we're around, right? And by calling one of us, you would know exactly who's there, right? You know what I'm saying? And then you can just stop by. If you drive by, you see Lily's car, you see Vance's car, you see my car. If our car is there, feel comfortable to stop in, right? If you're driving down Dawson Street. Other than that, like say you hanging out somewhere, like, hey, I want some people, y'all want to take you to this spot, man, meet some people, whatnot. If you give us a call, we let you know, like, hey, come on down, man, we here. You know what I'm saying?
Having a meeting.
Yeah.
And also every Saturday we have community service, so come anyway.
Yeah.
Sundays now too.
We wouldn't want you to come, you have somebody coming, and then, you know, we're sitting down having like a meeting, right? You know what I'm saying? Then you pop in, and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah. But if you
I definitely would want to give you a heads up. I was just wondering kind of how it was all set up. And me coming down this week will help that.
We'll
No,
see
so
you Thursday.
let me be clear. So one part of it, you can just pop in at any time as an individual, whatever. But if you, because you come in and we're doing something, you can go kick in the garden, sit back, you know what I'm saying, watch one, we have documentaries playing, you can just chill, drink some coffee, you're good. So it's always an open door invitation, right? You know what I'm saying, in that regard.
Yeah.
But if you need our attention, right, maybe you bringing somebody you want us to meet, it's always better for everybody to check in and find out so we can give them our full attention when they come down. We want to have that hospitality. That's the thing. Okay.
Somebody were trying to get into the desk, etc.
Yeah.
Invest or just visiting, you want to connect.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Rick, you good? You have a question, Rick? Over there, like you have a question, Big Rick? No, thanks. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you
Good.
everybody for coming. I just want to give shout outs to the Jamerson family, Get Well, Jacqueline, and also Pastor Robert Campbell for always being supportive, Joseph Finley for always being that go-to person, beautiful spirit. I just want to thank all of them for making things work and just being community warriors. Thank y'all for coming out and listening. Good night.
Thank all you guys for being here. So I thank you for being here earlier. I'm also going to remind you COVID is a thing. Please wash your hands, wear your damn mask. And I'm saying that because everyone in here, thank you so much for having your masks on. COVID is a thing. Wash your damn hands. And also follow us at SokotoHouse.org, all of our Facebook. Follow this initiative. Send out this conversation. Send out the comprehensive violence strategy.
And don't drink the fucking water.
Don't drink the fucking water.
Hey man, God bless you guys. Thank you guys. Have a good evening.
It'll kill you.